everybody, welcome back to a new episode of the Dodge Garage Cast. My name is Mike Musto, and I am here with Kevin Wesley, and we are going to talk about Roadkill Nights 2024. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct.
You were very wheezy right there.
I know, it's been a long day.
So this year at Roadkill Nights is going to be pretty badass. One of the things that we have is, well, there is a grudge match that's going to be happening, but it's going to be a little different this year due to the vehicles and more importantly due to the power plants. So this is where you come in. So tell us what the contestants are going to be running under the hood.
This year they're going to be running their Hurricane, 3-liter, straight six.
Okay.
Engine's currently in the Grand Wagoneer and has been released for the next generation of Ram pickups.
Okay, so for those of you out there who have never got your ass in the seat of a Grand Wagoneer or anything with the T6, I'm going to tell you right now, these engines rip. Now, I know there's been a lot of people out there like, well, the Hemis have gone away and blah, blah, blah. Hemis you could still go out and buy. Make no mistake, you can go to Direct Connection, buy a crate engine and throw it in whatever you want to throw it in, and they're fabulous motors. God knows that, well, I've got a couple of them, and you have a whole bunch of them, and they're never going to die because we adore them. But the T6 is kind of an evolution whereby you're going to a more compact engine, 2 turbos, big horsepower, better efficiency, better mileage. And I think one of the coolest parts is that this year at Roadkill Nights, the public is actually going to see these contestants kind of lock and load these things in their vehicles and rip down the 1320 again.
Yeah, well, I mean, at 550 horsepower, they're a little over 100 pounds lighter than a Gen 3 Iron Hemi.
Yeah.
Aluminum block, aluminum head. I mean, it's hard to beat that combo when it's making almost 75 horsepower more than the last generation of 6.4. I mean, short of a blower motor, this is as good as it gets as far as I'm concerned.
Now, how many pounds of boost do they run? Do you know?
About 26 to 28 pounds of boost.
So that's heavy. Are they doing, what are they, Garrett turbochargers on these things?
Yeah, twin Garretts.
Okay. So the idea for Roadkill Nights now is that contestants are going to be running the T6 coupled to Torque Flight 8-speed, is that right?
Yeah, 8 HP, 8-speed. So 8 HP 75.
Okay.
Which is what's in the trucks.
Okay. So for those of you that have, well, I'm assuming if you're watching this podcast, then you know you've driven these cars, you know how great that transmission is. If you haven't again driven the T6, you will find out soon enough because they're going to put them in everything, and they're spectacular, spectacular engines. Some of the cars that we're going to run, you're probably going to see a couple of Hornets out there, I'm assuming.
I've heard there are going to be a couple of Hornets.
Okay, and they're probably going to see a couple of, I mean, knowing the contestants, you'll probably see stuff that's, I don't know, they'll probably dig out of a field. And
I know the things that I've heard are going to be pretty crazy. I think the Hornets are going to be great builds. I mean, to, convert them to rear-wheel drive or try to keep the all-wheel drive. I mean, we just don't know what they're going to finalize it with.
Right.
But the Hornets are a good compact platform, and you put a lot of power to it, it should go really fast.
Well, we did, I mean, last year, we built the world's first, we built a concept, right? Or our interpretation of what a Hornet GLHS would look like, right? And we flared it, and we did all this stuff, and it is a wicked little hot rod of a truck. And I think that's the other part. And when you look at that, you look at the size, you look at the power, and then you look at what you can do to it. And you and I did just mild stuff to the suspension, and with the enhanced wheel and tire package, all of a sudden it was a little ripper of a vehicle.
Oh, 100%. It was a great little car.
Yeah.
I mean, it made good power, especially after we put the nitrous on it.
Nitrous always helps.
That's definitely helpful.
Yeah.
And so if you essentially double the output of what that car was, I mean, it's going to be fast.
Okay.
Especially when there's no other rules as far as prep. So we're pulling all the extra weight out of the cars.
Right.
We're doing as much as we can to make them light.
Right.
And as you know, light is fast.
Yep. So let me ask you, what do you think the contestants are going to do? So are there rules, meaning are they allowed to keep the all-wheel drive system if they figure out how to adapt it? Or are they going to gut the cars and convert it to rear-wheel drive?
I think probably the first thing people are going to do is gut the car and go rear-wheel drive because, that's essentially the easy button, right? I mean, you have a longitudinally, straight six going into a car that's not designed for a 6-cylinder.
Right.
To try to keep the all-wheel drive, then you're going to have to do, a different transfer case and a new front diff. And on top of that, a new rear diff because the Hornet stock diff is not going to handle the power of the T6. It'd be, I mean, it depends on how much time you have. I mean, luckily this year they're getting everything a lot earlier than they have in the past. So they should have a lot of build time to actually build something really, really cool.
Well, that's true. I mean, right now we're going into early May, right? And, Roadkill Nights is going to be, I don't know, early August as it always is. So they do have plenty of time to cobble stuff together. What's going to be interesting is to see how they actually cobble it together, right? Because when you talk about some of the participants, there are people out there that are very, very good at putting stuff together and building stuff. There are also people out there that aren't so good. And it's always interesting to see. And the interesting part is it always works. They always manage to get vehicles here. And some work better than others, right? What do you think their biggest challenge is going to be?
I think the biggest challenge really is going to be fitment. I mean, there's going to be a lot of fabrication that needs to happen to get this engine into a Hornet, let's say. But there's also going to need to be fabrication to get that engine into any current rear drive because there's no swap kits available. I mean, it's a brand new platform. I can't go to the catalog and order a Holly Gen 3 kit or anything like that. So all of that stuff needs to be fabricated. Now, is it complicated as far as swap goes? No. I mean, we've already built one. It's, again, not the easy button, but it's not the most difficult thing we've ever done.
Okay. Well, all the parts are coming from Direct Connection and Dodge, right?
Absolutely. So they're getting an engine, they're getting an engine harness.
Okay.
They're getting a ECU, they're getting a swap harness, they're getting a trans, a converter, everything that you essentially need to, slap into a car and make it run.
So they're getting the plug-and-play unit. They just have to figure out how to adapt it to whatever model, whether it's a Hornet or whether it's some other Dodge or Plymouth product that they're going to put it into, right?
Right, absolutely. And they need to make that decision. What do they want to put it in? Because, again, the easy button might be to put it in a bigger platform like a late model Challenger, but that's not the most competitive platform because they just weigh more.
Well, I was going to say, right, the nice part about the Hornet is it is a compact, it is very lightweight. When you start to gut stuff, as we found out, we took a lot of weight out of the Hornet when we started removing stuff. It should rip, especially if you put some tire in the back of that thing.
Oh, absolutely. It should absolutely 100% rip. It's really going to be, are these influencers really racers, right? I mean, that's going to be part of the conversation is, are we making an appearance? Are we here for clicks and views or are we here to win?
Yeah.
There's definitely going to be some people that are going to come to win and you should be prepared for that. It's a grudge race. You should come to win.
That's very true. And I will say this to anybody who is participating in this thing. If you've been to Roadkill Nights before, you understand that there's a massive crowd here. There's 35,000 people that are literally going to be staring at you, waiting for you to screw up. Try not to screw up. Try to build a vehicle that you're going to be proud of that's going to put on a good show because at day's end, it's your name, and don't be that person that completely just, because that's not cool. Put the show on that people want to see.
Luckily, we're going to be there to help, right?
Yes.
So they've tasked Wesley Motorsports with us of supporting all of the influencers, helping them through the build details. We'll be at the event. Yeah. We'll have the DC trailer with us. We'll have everything to make sure everybody can finish, hopefully. Okay. But yeah, you need to have a good recipe to start with.
You do. And here's the other part. As somebody who has raced at Roadkill Nights before, you might go into this thing thinking that, it's going to be great. We're just going to show up and it's going to be a piece of cake. Once you get to that line and you look in the grandstands and you see 20,000 people and spectators and that are staring at you, the pressure's on. And everything from rolling to the lights to staging to watching the beams to seeing that green light to dumping and going, that's all on you. You can't blame anybody but yourself if you screw it up. So
it's drag racing. Green does not mean go.
Right.
If you see the green, you're late,
right? Late.
Or flag or whatever they're going to do this year.
So. Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be super interesting to see what people concoct, how they build it. I'm sure with your guidance, everything will be fantastic.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Flawless. Yeah. Absolutely flawless. I think it's a great opportunity for the public to go out and see what the new T6 can do. I think that's really going to open their eyes about, because there's been a lot of stuff. I can't believe the Hemi's gone. Just shut up and wait until you see these motors in action because they're rippers. I promise you that. I've driven them. I know this. He knows this.
Compare it to a Gen 2 Hemi delivered in the 60s, right?
There is no comparison.
It's making 100 horsepower more than a decent Gen 2 Hemi made.
Right.
And you can tell that based on how fast the cars were, and everybody's going to say, oh no, my dad's Gen 2 Hemi made 1,000 horse. You're like, no, it didn't. You know, it probably
didn't.
barely ran half the time,
Right.
you know, whatever. So,
Yeah.
you know, these engines are very efficient. They make a ton of power. They make
Yeah.
a bunch of torque.
Yeah.
They're good engines. They should not get a bad rap out of the box.
So here's the thing: when you're talking about the old school stuff, like an old school Hemi Cuda was a 14-second car. You can't even compare that to something like a brand new SRT Demon 170, right? Line them up. The Demon will leave that Cuda like it's chained to a house.
100%.
Right? So
Absolutely.
this is where technology, inline six turbos all come in, and you guys are going to see that really soon at Roadkill Nights. All right, so here's the deal. If you want to find out more about Roadkill Nights that's coming up, go to dodgegarage.com. It'll have all the information you're ever going to need, and like I said, put it on your calendar, and we'll see you there.